This will be our last meeting, I take it? Dr. Juliana Miller asked. I see you signed up for the Shovanti military service. Would you mind walking me through why? Iveen Milk McDermott sat across from her therapist in a plush chair, a far cry from the padded couches she's seen in every single comic strip to exist. Her therapist sits across from her wearing a tight blouse and a long skirt. The second-generation Irishwoman thinks for a bit, absently petting the cat purring away in her lap. It felt right. Jack Kennedy wants to fly again, and honestly, so do I. And there's no milk without Cookie, she says with a smile. Her therapist smiles back. We'll touch on that last comment in a second, but from what I've heard, you have had some very bad experiences with the occupiers. What made you decide to sign up for service? You fought them, did you not? You came to me because you were suffering from survivor's guilt. Yeah, it might seem weird from what you've heard. She pauses, thinking. I think I've got my closure, now that I think about it. I know I spent a while wallowing in the rage and, well, you'll know what I've been in, she says. 3 months ago, the second-generation Irish lass got her arm broken during a protest against an ID law. Some noble tried to add a fee to the acquisition of an ID, screwing over anyone who wanted to come in from the cold and violating the forgiveness clause, negotiated during the surrender. I think I've stopped seeing them as the invaders and just as the new brand of asshole government ruling over me. I know we've covered this before, but I'd like you to unpack that statement. Explain to me why you feel this. We both have agreed that speaking your problems helps you categorize them, Dr. Miller says. She reaches over and takes a sip from her tea. Milk's tea sitting ignored in front of her as she pet the therapist's cat. Well, as you know, one of the driving reasons my family moved to the US was because one of my grandparents who was full on IRA and fought in the Troubles. My great-grandmother was a Union girl who shot at strike bearers during the Harlan County War, and my family has never really been on the right side of our home nation. We've always clashed with the government. Even when I joined the Navy, it wasn't out of some sense of patriotism. It was to fly. Milk removed a hand from her therapist's cat and took a sip of tea. It's been 6 years. I've gotten closure. We've recovered bodies or laid the dead to rest. I shot down their killers, and I've made it out of the camp. I've no real problem with their soldiers. Their leaders, well, what's the difference between some alien noble ruling over a conquered world and a Republican majority ruling over a bunch of gay folks? I don't really feel like anything has changed, to be honest. Dr. Miller nods, taking a sip to collect her thoughts. And how this ended up with you wanting to join their military? And would you mind telling me what you've been doing when you join? Milk shrugged. Well, for one, I'm pretty much joining their Coast Guard. I go up and down shipping lanes in a kick-ass spaceship looking for contraband, running off pirates and responding to distress calls. Helping people, mostly, I think, she sighed. Not quite dogfighting aliens in crazy locales or going where no lady has gone before, but at least I get to fly. ADHD's a bitch when I don't have something like a WSO console in front of me. At least my meds are cheap. Dr. Miller laughed. Yes, I was grateful on that part. Turns out therapists have a mandatory minimum wage in the Empire that was slightly higher than what I was charging. Combine that with good insurance and, well, we aren't here to talk money. I am glad you are getting back to what you like doing, and I wish you luck. Send word when you graduate, and I'll find a way to ship you a gift, the kind therapist said, smiling. She shook and held out a hand. Until then, keep your coping mechanisms in mind, and I wish you well. Milk smiled right back, standing up and shaking the hand of the woman who kept her from eating the barrow of a Webley all those years ago, while looking her right in the eye. And you as well. Hope the new management doesn't put you out of work. They laughed as Milk walked out the door smiling. She breathed in and breathed out, looking into the New York skyline, her eyes finding their way to the purple banner hanging from the Empire State Building. Her smile faltered before she sighed and began to long walk back to her apartment, whistling a tune she used to live her life by. Anchors away, me boys, anchors away. Like I told you, Da, I don't have a car. I sold it today, Ivy McDermott said over the video call. I'd love to see you all and have one last meal before I ship out, but I've just said why. Can't you take the train, dearie? Her mother interrupts, Her thick Kentucky accent cutting out Milk's much more faint Irish lit. It's not that far from Boston to New York. Milk sighed. Rails are still busted. Partisans blew the tracks last week and the shill haven't gotten off their asses to fix them yet. And before you say air travel, civilian flights are still grounded after the collision last month. Hate to say it, but I guess we're saying goodbye over the phone. Over the phone in this case was a bit of a misnomer, Milk thought, while looking at her extended family arranged on a variety of couches over a variety of screens. Shovanti logistical efforts included these cheap and very much monitored video conference setups. I've got to say, you really stepped it up. What's next? Joining the RUC? Asked Milk's uncle. Someone they couldn't prove didn't take pot shots at British Army troopers with an armor light during the Troubles. US Navy I could understand, but flying for the shill? Want me for that? Though the words were piercing, Milk just laughed. There was no bite in them from her family. Well, you know, a lady's got to have a good machine between her legs or she gets bored, the Irish redhead said with a wink to her family. Disgusted groans and wolf whistles met her as she laughed before sobering up. Honestly, seeing them flying like that? Always loved it in the air. Never felt right stuck on the ground. At least this way I won't be flying cargo. I've pretty much joined the Coast Guard. At this declaration, laughter and jaunting tears of puddle pirate came from some of her siblings who had joined the Navy with her. Milk laughed, taunting them right back as the washer conversion filled the apartment with a loving white noise. She idly wondered how the announcement went over with Cookie's family. Her smile faded as she imagined it.